Alright lads, and welcome to another video. Today I'm going to be counting down the top 10 things that we want in the Elder Scrolls 6. To be honest, it might just be what I want, which you might agree with, or you might think all my ideas will ruin the game, so whatever you think about my ideas, be sure to leave your response in the comment section below. Now the first thing I'd like in a new Elder Scrolls game would be more originality. What irritated me about Skyrim was how so many items were just copied over from Oblivion, like the Daedric artifacts. I mean, like pretty much all of the Daedric quest rewards were exactly the same, and the first Fighters Guild quest in Oblivion was just copied over from Morrowind. So I'd want completely new legendary items with completely new storylines required to obtain them. The next thing I'd like, continuing with our theme of originality, with more guilds and factions. I don't have a problem with the factions, but they've practically been the same since the start of the game. Start of the games. In Morrowind, there was like over 10 joinable guilds, such as, different vampire clans and the Imperial cult. There was a presence of quite a few factions in Oblivion, which you could join, but they'd barely have any quests. They didn't really function like a guild. Like, they'd have one quest, you'd join this faction and be like, oh, right, is there anything else? And there wouldn't be. Like the Vampire Hunter Guild and the Blades, the Blades... you thought there was going to be more quests because you became a part of a guild, a part of an organisation, but there just wasn't. I mean, it kind of felt like some of the game's content was missing. What we need is a full-on evil necromancer guild, or a hunter guild, or maybe even a crafting guild. Guilds with, completely, which kind of complement more of a game's abilities and skills. Maybe there could even be a different like bandit clans which you could join. I mean, after doing the big Markarth Force One quest, I actually wanted to join the Force One and get more quests from them and be a member of the Force One, because actually I actually backed their organisation. And you should have the option also to just be a bit more evil in the game. Be a mercenary or something cool like that. Obviously you can be evil in the game because there's a Dark Brotherhood, but I think should just be a little bit more evilness to the game. Now, I take my influence for my third idea from many of the survival mods in Skyrim, which were incredibly popular during Skyrim's release, due to the overall popularity of survival games like Minecraft, DayZ and Rust, which were all knocking about that time. The thing is about these survival games is that most of them have been made by an indie developer. So, I don't think there's been a properly developed survival game with crossed elements of an RPG game. I mean, it's either something you love or hate, and perhaps the survival realism of a game could be an optional feature like it was in Fallout 4, Fallout New Vegas. But, you have all this food in the game. You even have a crafting system for food, and it just kind of felt like it didn't benefit you that much. Like, it was kind of a bit pointless. I mean, why couldn't the food been there to keep you alive via survival mechanics? The game, it should encourage you to spend time in inns, chilling out, maybe getting a bit smashed with your guildmates, and actually make you behave like a person rather than just a brute mercenary. Frostfall was another hugely popular mod which added a survival mechanic that made the cold in the game actually life-threatening, and it forced you to survive against the cold by building campfires and stuff. There are these kind of features in Bethesda's other games, like the Fallout games. So I think the Elder Scrolls could definitely benefit from more realistic mechanics. Now, my next idea is a little bit risky. You're either going to hate it or love it, I guess. It's another one of those things. But I think a form of multiplayer could make an Elder Scrolls game better. I'm not saying make Skyrim into an MMO. That's already been done. But have a multiplayer, more like a cooperative system where you can play with your friends in the same world. Maybe there could be your single-player world, but also your multiplayer world that you can play with your friends when your friends are online, and maybe you both level up together, in this separate world. I always kind of wanted to play Skyrim with my friends. Some people might prefer the game as a single-player immersive experience. I'd agree with that as well in many ways. But when I play Skyrim, I can't help but feel that why can't my companion, like Lydia, be occupied by a player? For my fifth idea, I'm going to build more an immersion in the game because I think there should be the option to not just be an adventurer in the game. I'd like the option to work as maybe a blacksmith or maybe even a king's advisor or court wizard. So I'd like actual professions into the game, and there should also be the option to purchase inns and shops and farms that you could manage almost like a simulation game. You could be like a shop owner, that kind of thing. That's another thing, you should be able to be a proper bard in the game. The game shouldn't just be about killing. Well, I suppose it is a big element of the game, but you should just be able to just kind of get fun out from the game by using the speech skill, by being a merchant, that kind of thing. Anyways, get back to the script. I just quite like the idea of standing behind a bar and maybe like serving adventurers a tankard of mead, or maybe you can even join the town guard and you earn money from standing around guarding a small village, but it gets sacked by bandits and you've got to survive waves of enemies to defend the people of that village. Just little small things like this. I don't think the game should all just be about doing quests, and you want to become part of the world and the story. And features like this would, just simply make the game a bigger, more extensive experience. Like the speechcraft skill in Skyrim and Oblivion, it barely has any use. It has use, but like say for instance in Oblivion there's like certain quests which complement the skill, and you've got to kind of like work around persuading people, and the little minigame persuading people thing, and there's only like a small amount of quests which complement the speechcraft skill, so you can upgrade the speechcraft skill. And it's the same with Skyrim. There's only certain moments where you can use the intimidate and the persuade dialogue option, and I think it should be built into the game more, so you could actually just play the game by being a bard. Maybe there's maybe it could just be a bard skill tree, so you could learn instruments, you could learn the trade, be a merchant. That kind of thing. But anyway, I'll stop talking about it because I haven't actually scripted this. For number 6, I'd like gear customization. So the ability to kind of dye armors so that your gear matches and you don't look like a tit. Let's be honest, when you've got like a combination of steel, dwarven armor, it just doesn't look cool. But you should be able to get patterns engraved onto your swords or emblems onto your shields or armor to like represent what clan you belong to or guild you belong to. And the customization shouldn't just be visual but also practical. So maybe you could add spikes to your shield to increase your shield bash damage, or maybe blades onto your bow, or enchantments onto your arrows. For number 7, I'm going to talk about setting. I don't know what zone you'd like to be featured in the next game. I'm not personally too bothered, but I would prefer there to be a more diverse setting. So perhaps the game could be set in 2 or 3 different zones instead of just the one. So maybe the Somerset Isles, Valenwood and elsewhere could all be put together, or maybe Blackmarsh or Morrowind. They could even set the game in a completely different world, or maybe in a Daedric Lord's realm. For number 8, I think there should be a Conjuration overhaul. Conjuration should feel more like you're a necromancer in command of your own little personal army. So you should be able to summon more minions at once, rather than, quite early in the skill tree, rather than later on when you master Conjuration. And there should be a larger variation in the minions you can actually summon, since they've been pretty much the same, for quite a while now. It should be like 20 variations for each skill, with all of their own different kind of like abilities, and perhaps you can only summon 3 minions at a time, and one of those minions is a DPS minion, one of them's a tank minion, one of them's a healer minion, so it's almost like commanding your own little dungeon group. Second to last, it's going to be a bit random. I just really want to be a pirate, right? There have been a serious lack of proper pirate games recently, and fair enough, a pirate RPG game doesn't necessarily have to be an Elder Scrolls game. But a game like this would definitely work within the lore of the Elder Scrolls, since the Red Guard race and their country have a lot of pirates, and there was even an Elder Scrolls game released in 1998 called The Elder Scrolls Adventures Redguard, which was basically a semi-open world pirate game. So maybe Bethesda could make a revamp of that game. Now, for my final my final thing, whatever you want to call it, I'd like there to be bigger cities, more like the scale of Novigrad from The Witcher 3. All the cities in Skyrim kind of feel really small, and they're meant to be a lot bigger. I mean, no city's going to have like 4 shops. I mean, games like Daggerfall were the equal size of Great Britain, with over like 750,000 NPCs and 150,000 locations in the game. Obviously, a lot of Daggerfall was randomly generated, but it's a simple fact that the games are actually becoming smaller with each installment, when really, they should be getting bigger. Like Skyrim was smaller than Oblivion, it's just like slowly getting smaller. I mean, it's not incredibly impractical these days. Maybe it was when Skyrim was released, because you've got the limitation of the consoles, but we are in the next generation of technology these days. We've got new consoles and everything, so hopefully we'll be seeing a larger setting, because the games are getting smaller when really they should be getting bigger. Obviously, there's a limitation of file size, and maybe if the game's bigger, then the graphics would have to be reduced, but it's still, the game shouldn't be getting smaller, let's be honest. Anyway, lads, that is the end of this video. Tell me what you think in the comment section, and be sure to check out my video link in the description. My name is the Metagoblin, and until my next video, ciao!